I will be making Cinnamon-Raisin-Walnut Babka from Breaking Breads by Scheft. I love this book for Jewish baking. The babkas all use the same dough with different fillings, and I've made a few different recipes. I've also made focaccia and dill bread from this book, and the instructions are very clear and detailed with pictures at difficult spots to demonstrate techniques besides just the end result pictures. If challah bread and rugelach are your thing, this is a must-buy book. Babkas in general are a rich laminated dessert bread that require planning and about 48 hours total set aside for not just the work. The work is a little bit involved, but it's not crazy. It's the rising time that you need for this type of bread. So if you want to make one from scratch, it's well worth it, but make sure you're ready for the commitments. Some people prefer chocolate babka, and I've made that before, but cinnamon babka takes a backseat to no babka. So let's go ahead and get started.
To get started with the babka dough, we're going to add half a cup of slightly warm milk. And then we're going to put in half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then the next thing we're going to do is add in 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast. And then we're just going to give that a couple minutes to bloom. Next up, I'm going to add 2 1/4 cups of sifted flour. And then we're going to use the dough hook to go ahead and start mixing this together. Now I'm going to add 2 cups plus 2 tablespoons of sifted pastry flour. And once again, we're going to go ahead and continue to mix this. Now to introduce some more liquid, we're going to put in 2 large eggs. And just continue to mix. Up next is 1/3 cup of just plain sugar. And then just a pinch of salt. And back to mixing. Now I've got 5 tablespoons of butter plus a teaspoon, and we're just going to add that in bit by bit in small chunks to the mixture. We've got everything blended, and now we're just going to get all this flour from the sides here, get all that mixed in so that we don't have anything. We want a uniform mixture by the time we're done here. And now I'm going to up the speed a little bit, and we're going to knead this with the dough hook for 4 more minutes until we have a completely uniform dough. Like every time I've made this recipe, the dough is now very dry, too dry to work with. The recipe says in the cookbook to now slowly add milk until you get a solid dough. I'm a big believer in wetter is better, but you want to be careful and slowly add liquid to this. You don't want to accidentally overdo it. So we're going to go ahead and just add a little bit, and we're just going to keep adding a little at a time until we get the consistency of dough that we want, and I'll show you what that looks like. So for this batch, I ended up having to use about 2.5 extra tablespoons of milk to get this really soft, pliable dough here. So now we're going to go ahead and move over to our rolling mat. Now on a lightly floured surface, and with flouring our hands and the top of the dough a little bit, we're going to stretch and fold. So we're just going to pull the top until it tears, and then fold that to the center, and then turn it a quarter. And we're going to continually do that. Tear and fold for about just a good solid 5 minutes of continuing this until we can get it to stretch without tearing. I finished stretching and folding the dough, and you want to have it look like that. That's about what we're going for there. Then we're going to flour the bottom of a bowl and just put the dough in there, wrap it with plastic wrap. We're going to let this sit for about 30 minutes at room temperature, and then we're going to put it in the refrigerator, and we're going to let this continue to rise overnight in the cold. The dough has been resting for about 24 hours. Now, with a piece of paper, parchment paper, we're going to take 13 tablespoons of butter, and we're going to roll this out. I'm going to put it between 2 pieces of paper, and we're going to roll this out to a 7 by 8 inch rectangle. Now that I've gotten the butter about to the shape and thickness that I'd like, I'm going to go ahead and just put this in the refrigerator to let it harden a little bit while we work with the dough. You can see the dough has risen and it has gained volume, but because it's been in that cold fridge, not like it hasn't risen like if it was in a proofer or a hot, humid environment. So now what we're going to do on a lightly floured surface, we're going to add a little bit of flour just to the top while we roll this, and we're going to roll this out into a 7-inch by 16-inch rectangle as well. All right, I've rolled out the dough, and I've put the butter on the bottom half of the short side, and now we're just going to bring this over and sort of seal the dough around the edges of that butter. Also going to brush off any excess. And now we're going to turn the dough so that the seam is now facing to the right. And we're once again going to roll this out, but this time we're going to roll it into a 9 by 16 rectangle. And at this point, you can either use a knife or your bench scraper to make the edges straight, and we'll just re-roll that, reincorporate that back into the dough as we roll it. Now, with our rectangle of babka dough, we're now going to fold this like an envelope. So we're going to take about the bottom third, fold it up, then the top third, and fold it down over that. So as you go through this too, you're going to want to make sure you brush off excess flour that it picks up from the work surface here, because that'll get in the way of all of these layers bonding together over time. Perfect. And we're just going to roll this just slightly, just enough to sort of press the layers together. And then we're going to put this in plastic wrap and put it in the refrigerator for 30 minutes. And then we're going to do this exact same procedure 2 more times. We're going to roll it out to 9 by 16. We're going to do the triple fold 2 more times in order to really add a bunch of complex layers. So 30 minutes in the fridge, do it a second time. 30 minutes in the fridge, do it a third time. I just finished rolling and folding the dough. The third roll is actually kind of difficult. It's almost like folding paper where it gets more difficult each time. We've worked the gluten so much that the dough kind of becomes springy, but you really want to, it's worth it to spend all this extra effort to do it the advanced way where you've got really laminated dough. So now I've wrapped it in cling wrap, and we're going to put this in the refrigerator overnight, and day 3 we're actually going to get to fill, bake, and eat these bad boys. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. You're going to need a big rolling mat for this, or at least a big work surface to work on, because we now got our dough from the fridge. I've let it relax a little bit for a few minutes, and we need to roll it out to a 10-inch by a 28-inch rectangle, so very large sheet. I zoomed out a little bit to just show you how big this sheet is. We want it to be really long because we're going to actually make 3 loaves by cutting it like this. So now I've got a stick of softened butter, and we're just going to take it bit by bit here, and we're just going to spread this butter all over the dough. Next up, we're going to put a layer of cinnamon all across here. Now, I'm putting more cinnamon than the recipe recommends, but I love the flavor of cinnamon, so I really want to get just a really powerful punch of that. With half a cup of sugar, we're just going to go ahead and spread that all over the inner layer there as well. Now I've got 1.5 cups of chopped walnuts, and just like everything else, we're just going to try to spread those evenly all across the inside of the dough. And next we've got a cup of currants, and just the same as the nuts, we're just going to sprinkle those all throughout this inside mixture. Now we gently just want to try to pat these ingredients down to kind of get everything to stick before we actually roll this up into a wonderful spiral, almost like we're making cinnamon rolls. Now we're going to roll this from the top down towards you, and this is an extremely long rope, so you might need to work in segments here, but you want to just make sure you're keeping your roll as tight as possible. So definitely take your time and just do this bit by bit. Now with this big long roll, we're going to gently take our rolling pin. The seam is at the bottom of this roll, and we're not going to roll it. We're just going to press this down. Now we're going to cut it lengthwise the whole way down, being roughly as equal as you can be. If your dough starts to unfurl like mine did, that's okay, because I just sort of re-rolled them and pressed down again to get them to adhere together again. So now we're going to measure this out, and we're going to cut this into approximately thirds. Now, with each matching rope of dough, we're going to put one end on top of the other, and you can press down pretty hard. And we're just going to braid it over the top and under. Until you get a wonderful little braid just like that. Now in the bread pan, we're going to put these in, and we're going to let them rise in this bread pan for at least 2 hours. While the dough is rising, we're going to make a simple sugar syrup. So this is just 3/4 of a cup of sugar mixed with 1/2 cup of water. Put it on your stove, let it boil until the sugar gets completely dissolved and the mixture turns clear, and then we're going to take it off and let it cool. Just wanted to show you guys, this is now done. It's completely translucent all the way through. That white layer on the bottom where the sugar had settled is no longer there. So now I'm going to take this off heat, and we're going to use this to glaze the babkas when they come out of the oven. These babkas have really puffed up nicely during the long rise. So now I'm going to go ahead and take these and put them in the oven at 350 degrees for about 35 minutes. We're going to check them at 20 minutes. And if they look like they're browning a little too much, then we might put a shield over the top of them. But they should stay in the oven for about 35 minutes. Just took the babkas out of the oven, and while they're still hot, we're going to immediately start basting them in this sugar syrup, and that's going to give them this nice glossy sheen across the top. That sugar is also going to help make them stay moister over time as they cool here. So make sure you use up all that sugar syrup on all 3 of your babkas, or 2 if you did the basic babka dough in this cookbook. I've finished applying the sugar syrup, and you can see how nice and shiny these tops are. So we're going to now let this rest, and because we're not serving immediately, we're going to let these cool all the way back down to room temperature inside their pans, and then we'll cut a slice. These have fully cooled, and I've taken them out of the bread pans, and they look like they came out really good. So we're going to go ahead and cut through one of these so I can show you what the inside layers look like. And yeah, look at that. Look at that. There's all sorts of layers going all throughout the inside of it. And it's just got, you can smell the cinnamon and the sugar coming off of it. And these are really good. So if you enjoy really rich dessert breads, I highly recommend you try making babka. It's a really good recipe. Chocolate is obviously really good, but there's a lot of other kinds besides just chocolate and even just cinnamon. There's a poppy seed version. There's a hamantaschen version. So go ahead and check this book out, as well as other books that have babka recipes. They're all really good. If you enjoy my videos, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one.